All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, I hate to say it, but every time that Kevin Durant speaks, tweets, or is referenced to in any way, shape, or form recently, it does not look good for the NBA superstar. Now, according to published reports, Durant and the Brooklyn Nets team owner Joe Tsai recently met in London, where KD reiterated that he wants to be traded, while he also gave Tsai an ultimatum that it would either have to be him or team general manager Sean Marks and head coach Steve Nash that leave Brooklyn. Now, since then, Tsai has gone on Twitter to express his support for both Marks and Nash. But at the end of the day, don't ask me to feel bad for Cy and the Nets, as at the end of the day, they created this issue with both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, you go back several years ago, the Nets moved heaven and earth to get KD and Kyrie. And not just them, they also, brought along their boy DeAndre Jordan too, as they gave him a contract. And then let's not forget, in KD's first year with the Nets, him and Kyrie, they basically ran off head coach Kenny Atkinson, who was an established head coach, who was a solid head coach, and was on the same page with Sean Marks. Then on top of that, the Nets basically destroyed a young and talented team that they were building, as it included the likes of D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen, just to make this KD and Kyrie marriage work. They also brought in James Harden. That didn't work out as well. And at the end of the day, for the 3 years that the Nets have stood by and had this thing going on, they only have one playoff series win to show for it. And I know that KD was rehabbing during his first year in Brooklyn with the Nets, but nonetheless, 3 years into this thing, and for the most part, the Nets have absolutely nothing to show for it. The Nets turned around and gave Kevin Durant an extension last summer. And to me, this is the latest trend. It's not just KD, but it's some players in the NBA where they get their money. They know they can't be traded right away. And then on top of getting their money, they know that the current team that they're playing for, there's no other team out there that can give them more money than their current team. So, of course, they're looking to milk it for all it's worth. I know that some people are going to, say that, well, today's NBA players are more business savvy, which they are. And on top of that, I know that there are going to be some people out there that's going to say, well, you know what? There's no loyalty between the front offices and the NBA and the players, which is true. But at the end of the day, I think what is going to happen of this, there's going to be a lot of talks when the new CBA comes around, because you're going to have teams that are going to want more of a commitment from players, even though that they still have the ability to trade players whenever they feel as well. Now, on the flip side, for Kevin Durant, he's going to be 34 years of age next month, and he is still one of the best players in the game as far as putting the ball in the bucket. But with that said, you got to ask yourself, is KD worth the headache? He's going to be 34. He has an injury history recently. And then on top of that, a lot of things are going on. Well, do you really want this guy in your locker room? He wasn't happy in OKC. He wasn't happy with the Warriors. And now he's not happy with the Nets after Kenny Atkinson left. And this front office gave him the head coach in Steve Nash that he and Kyrie wanted. And this is a scenario where, you know what? I said it when the Nets brought in Steve Nash. They needed an experienced, seasoned head coach. And I mean, for all of his accolades as a player, and Steve Nash is a Hall of Famer. With that said, he was never a head coach. He was never an assistant coach before taking over the Nets. And I think all of that factors in as well. But at the end of the day, you know what? This is a bad look for KD. I've been saying it all along. And the Nets eventually are going to trade him. To me, I don't think that they're in a rush to get it done, because they want to get what they feel is fair value. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure that they are going to get fair value because you have to ask yourself if you're a team that might be interested in Kevin Durant, is he worth the headache? KD, if you trade for him, in my opinion, I feel like it's a 1 year deal and it's a win now deal because I think after that second year, there's going to be egos that come into play, most notably KD's. And you know what? It's not going to mesh. It's not going to blend with what a team wants to do. So I think if you want to be all in for the upcoming season with KD, if you trade for him, fine. But after that, you got to deal with all the excess baggage. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to what I said when all of this stuff came out, and I'm going to stick by it. I'm probably going to be wrong as far as the final outcome, but I'm still going to state my opinion. And what that is, I feel that the Nets should just blow this thing up and start over. It has not worked out with Kyrie. It has not worked out with KD. um, at the end of the day, you're not going to fully get back what you want for those players. But I think if you're willing to suck it up as the Nets and just part with them and start over fresh, I think you would be better off. And I think honestly, at the end of the day, I would say when I say start fresh, see what you can do with Ben Simmons and trade him and get something back, get a new head coach, everything, because this simply has not worked. The Nets, two times in the last 10 years, have tried this and it doesn't work. We saw them, go out there and get a washed up Paul Pierce and KG from Boston. Of course, Boston turned those picks into Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. But nonetheless, that didn't work, and the Nets were only able to get out of the first round once before they had to blow that up. And we're seeing it again. The Nets, they did appear like they were doing it the right way, just getting players that fit their system, working through the draft and going young. And it was working because they were getting to the playoffs. They did get to the playoffs once with that team, but nonetheless, they mortgaged their future. And at the end of the day, they rolled the dice and it came up snake eyes. And all of this talk about getting together for super teams and all this other stuff, sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. And I think right now with the Brooklyn Nets, we are seeing how and why it does not work. And I'll also say this, I've said this before and I will continue to say this. Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers that the NBA has ever seen, bar none. But I feel like he's going to spend the rest of his career and maybe a portion of his life looking for the respect that he feels that he deserves. And of course, KD's rep took a blow when he left OKC to join Golden State. And, he won two championships with the Warriors, but I think KD feels like he never got the respect that he deserved. And it was going to be tough for him to get that respect because, listen, you left the team, you left, OKC to go join a team that you had up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals the previous year, a team that won 73 games. They had already won a championship without you. And at the end of the day, Golden State turned around after you left and won another championship. So at the end of the day, I feel like, he's going to spend, some years, looking for the respect that he feels he deserves. Will he get it? I don't know. But at the end of the day, the way things are going for him with the Brooklyn Nets, it's making it tougher, for people to stick up for him. Of course, he's going to have some people in his corner, and of course, he's going to have his critics. But nonetheless, it's a bad look for Kevin Durant right now, as he just looks like the quote unquote prima donna star player that just wants his way. So let's see what happens with the Nets. Let's see what happens with KD. But at the end of the day, it's not a good look for anybody. I just think they need to part as soon as possible, go their separate ways, and see how each party, respectively, can recover from this. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.